Welcome to Life Unrestricted.
This is your show if you're sick of living a life controlled by food and exercise rules, and if you're ready to learn how to accept yourself and enjoy the heck out of life. My gig is about body image, femininity, self-worth, and resilience. Come on, let's walk side by side as we slowly step out of restriction misery and unlock our true selves.
Your host, Merritt Boxler, is a former national radio DJ, freelance journalist, speaker, and writer with a passion to make women feel good in their bodies. This is a show brought to you live from Switzerland.
Hello, hello. Glad to be allowed to be in your ears for a bit again today. I really appreciate that. I wonder how all of you are doing out there on our not so easy journey from out of diet and weight obsession towards a healthier and saner relationship to food and exercise, and most of all towards self-acceptance, right? As you know, for me, my worth was always subconsciously tied to my appearance. And since I was bullied for being a chubby kid and a bigger teenager, and I was put on very restrictive diets from a very, very early age, I later totally lost myself in the idea that I had to become skinnier no matter what. In fact, I literally almost ran myself into the ground for the sole purpose of becoming thinner, more toned, or my idea of becoming more beautiful, more acceptable. All I wanted, of course, was to be loved, to be accepted. And I tried to do that by not accepting myself, by hating myself, judging by the way I treated myself and talked to myself. One could say I was a really nasty person, judgmental of all I did or didn't do. It was all based on shame, guilt, and internal punishment for my perceived flaws. And after years and years and years of running after an imaginary carrot and wondering why I still felt like shit, I ended up in a mental hospital because my body and mind were just so strung out that I had literally lost my will to live, which is quite something because after all my childhood trauma, I thought I was quite resilient. But what brought me down in the end, or let's say where the whole mess was hidden, was in my terrible body image. My internalized shame, my lack of self-worth that was so closely tied to my size. So for me, becoming a nicer person has everything to do with how I treat myself, with letting go of judgment about my weaknesses and vulnerabilities, and also, to love my strengths and the things I like about myself. And of course, with that, I also have to let go of my body shame and of my judgments about my body. Because with that, I also let go of judgment about other people's bodies. Because let's look at it. When we judge other people's bodies, it's only 100% sure that we also judge our own bodies and eternally compare ourselves to other people's bodies, whether that be in a good or very negative sense. So it's not really of any use to us to always compare ourselves to other people's strengths and performances and bodies and their work and eternally finding lack in ourselves. And ever since I learned about my shadow sides and being aware of my judgmental thoughts, I at least now have a choice and can step back from my inner mean voice, my gremlin, when I can catch it. I can't always catch it, of course, but when I can, then I have a choice to come up with a better thought about myself or a neutral one. That makes me a nicer person towards myself and thereby also towards other people. So, in this episode of the Life Unrestricted podcast, you're going to meet Summer Innanen from Vancouver, Canada. She is the host of the very podcast that has life-changing abilities, that's what I say, for humans fighting a silent fight with body shame, weight and diet obsession, and a messed up relationship to food and exercise, and their bodies thereby. Her podcast is called Fearless Rebel Radio, and I discovered it when she only just started out, which was a very lucky coincidence. And what can I say? Summer became my headphone companion, and by listening to her and her interviewees, I realized for the first time that I wasn't alone with this struggle, with my weird thoughts about my body, with my obsessions, with my weird behavior, with my over-exercising, with my silent worrying. When I realized just how many women out there are suffering, mostly in silence. Here in Switzerland, I probably told you, people just don't talk about stuff like that. They don't talk about their struggles or addictions or shames. Not at all. When I started out talking about that, I lost a lot of people that previously adored me when I was a radio DJ here in Switzerland at the national radio station. They just sort of deserted me because I started talking about real stuff. But it was just me. That's me. That's the real me. And I'd rather only have one friend, but a real one, than 10,000 imaginary ones that don't really know me for myself. So yeah, I struggled for a long time because no one ever talked about it. And I suffered in silence as well. So when I discovered summer, it was a real revolution for me. And that gave me a lot of courage to talk about that stuff and to see that I didn't have to live my life in shame and feeling isolated with my worries, And so, yeah, that kickstarted a whole new world for me. I felt understood, seen somehow. And as I know now, that's the most important thing, to beat isolation and shame. That's why I'm doing this podcast, to maybe help you. And you can maybe one day help someone else. I think that's a very good plan, isn't it? So, yeah. That's when I started my deeper self-discovery. I studied with Byron Katie and Brené Brown, started educating myself on these topics, and I started finding and connecting to my tribe. So Summer Innanen, she's I don't know, she's one of the first women that made me see, hey, wow, we can do so much greater stuff. And I will always love her for that. Because I think she's a woman every woman needs in her life. She's not just an incredibly nice person, but she's also a woman who will awaken your inner badass. She works as a body image coach who has her own past with decades of restricting, body insecurity, exercise addiction, and she now helps women to stop living behind the numbers on their scales, to ditch their diet demons for good, and to develop real inner confidence. She has been featured in the Huffington Post, Refinery 29, and the Beautiful magazine, and she has written her own book. It's called The Body Image Remix and belongs on every bedside table, if you ask me. In her work as a coach, Summer has created the 21-Step Body Image Remix, a life-changing 21-day program that helps women build body confidence. And her flagship is called Rock Your Body. That's an online program dedicated to helping women break free of societal standards and be unapologetically themselves. Sounds good, doesn't it? As I said, she lives in Vancouver, in Canada, with her husband and her dog, Walter. And would you believe it? She and I, we managed to miscalculate the time difference of our locations where we live. And we were totally not ready at the same time. So I was waiting here and she wasn't even awake yet. So of course, when we finally started our talk, we had the giggles right away. Oh my word, we're not even capable of doing the math.
It's hard. You know what? This happens to me a lot with anytime I need to schedule things across the world. It also gets messed up too, because sometimes if we've had a daylight savings time change, then it doesn't, that doesn't always reflect in the time zone converters. I've learned this online. So anyways, what I'm trying to do is basically not put the blame on us.
Yeah, me too. Wasn't me. Hi, Summer.
Hi.
Oh, I'm ridiculously excited to have you. Really.
That's good.
Thank you so much for coming on the show. This is great.
Thanks for having me.
I'm so happy I discovered you. The start of your podcast, when was that? In 2014 it must have been, right?
Yes, it's been 2 years.
Yeah.
So
you must have heard it maybe or read it, because you really made a difference in my life. I know that I started listening to Finding Our Hunger with Kyla, and it must have been around 2014, and then you were on the show there. And then you talked about planning your own podcast and that it was going to be out soon. I remember something like that. And then I was like, I got to follow her.
Thank you. Well, being on Kyla's podcast was one of the reasons why I started a podcast, because I was like, I really enjoy talking about myself, so I'm going to do it more.
Yeah, isn't it good to talk about yourself? Oh my God. So then I started out, like, in the beginning of you doing it, I was like with you from the start. And then I remember at one point you had your group as well. And then it was really small, your awesome Facebook group that we're going to have to talk about and link to. And then, after a while, after so many interviews and everything, you became my headphone friend. And I really started to, open my mind up and everything. So it's slowly something, I don't know, started to shift. So
that's so good. I'm so happy. That makes me so happy. Thank you.
I think you are making a huge difference in so many women's lives. But I think you know that. I think you know that.
I don't actually. No. I'm totally one of those people that...
What? Don't you get tons of emails every day?
No, not tons. I get some, but not every day for sure. No. No, but I'm just one of those people that doesn't... I don't do a good job of giving myself credit in that area.
That's the compliments are Teflon and the criticism sticks like Velcro. Is that?
That's me.
Yeah,
yes.
Me too.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, total work. I've come a long way, but it's still, it's perfectionism for sure. Yeah,
I know. At what point in time did you become such a nice person, actually?
It's actually probably a valid question, because I don't think I was always a nice person. But when did I become nice? Oh, probably, I don't know, maybe in the last, 7 years or so, maybe I've become nicer. I think through my own transformation. I think, hey, here it is. Becoming nicer to myself has helped me to be nicer to other people as well. Like, this whole journey is really about, like, seeing beauty in everybody, like appreciating diversity, being a champion for equality. And I think that through my own transformation, those beliefs that I've really bought into now and like wholeheartedly believe, and that's in my heart, has just helped me to then just be a better person in life.
You nailed it. That's the same for me. I don't know, it started out in 2015 with the Byron Katie workshop, and then I went to the School for the Work with her in California, and after that I studied with Brene Brown for a while. And when I discovered my compassionate side, it was just, I wasn't a mean person in 2014, but I have much more of a compassionate heart. And just as you said, it has a lot to do with how we treat ourselves.
Yes. I had a lot of anger and resentment. Yeah. I carried a ton of anger and resentment, and anger and resentment shows up, in ways that don't, like, are indirect ways, so I would kind of channel that onto other people or different things. And it sounds bad. I wasn't really that mean, but this doesn't, I was a very nice person, but I just, I was judgmental. Best way for me to say it is that I was kind of judgmental, and when I was a teenager, I bullied other people because I was bullied. So that just so people aren't internalizing this.
Yeah, I was referring to way back, of course. And
yes. I don't have a lot of anger anymore. No. Against diet culture. Yes. It's more just something that I channel into doing good work. Like, I channel that into my work. I use it as a force of good.
We need a lot of that. By the way, how does one get an awesome name like that?
My mom really liked it. So I wasn't born in the summer. I was born in March. So I was born in the winter. I suppose I was conceived in the summer, but my mom just liked the name. They weren't hippies.
I love the name. I really do.
Thank you.
It sounds hippie-ish.
It does. yeah, my mom definitely was not a hippie. So
I think everyone in my corner of the world must get to know you, those who don't. So please take us back into however far back and tell us about how your relationship to your body developed and evolved, or devolved first.
Sure. Well, I think when I was growing up, if I look back on it, I don't remember ever feeling good in my body. My brother teased me a lot, and he targeted my body. That was like, because I think he saw that gave the biggest reaction. So he bullied me quite a bit. He teased me a lot. He was 5 years older than me. And I was always like a really self-conscious kid. And, I was never athletic. I was always like the last kid in gym class and stuff like that. So that just kind of developed and I would say became more pronounced as I got older into my teenage years. So I thought there was something wrong with me. And I thought that it was my body, and I thought that changing my body would fix it. And so, my mom was a dieter chronically, and her weight was always up and down. And, she was always talking about her body and fussing over her body and her weight. And so, obviously I picked up some of that. I have zero blame for her, because I think that the culture, was like that as well. It still is. I think when I got into like dieting and exercise when I was probably like 12 or 13, just started to kind of dabble with it. And then I remember like my very first kind of experience with it was when I was in grade 9. So I was like 14 years old, and we had a biology assignment, and we had to track our calories and our macronutrients as part of this assignment. And I remember tracking like my fat and my carbs and my calories. And I remember this like so distinctly. I remember my mom saying to me, if you want to lose weight, you need to eat between 15 to 30 grams of fat a day. Like that's all you should eat, which is like insanely low.
Yeah.
But that like triggered something in me, and I was like, all right, like then I'm going to do that. So
let's do that. Yeah.
Yeah. So that was kind of like my first foray into like restricting something or being conscious of a certain food group and starting to cut things out. But it wasn't anything significant until probably in my early 20s when I started to really become obsessed with exercise. And that was always my bigger obsession. And so that grew over the years. And when I first started doing CrossFit, which was about 9 years ago now, they introduced me to the paleo diet. And so I thought that could solve all of my problems. Mm. And so that became like a real obsession. And I think, with the internet and stuff, it made it really easy for me to spend all of my time like looking at things and reading other things and getting obsessed with like, how can I tweak things? How can I lose fat? What can I do? And it was occupying so much of my life. I mean, food, weight, and exercise was basically my full-time job. And it got to a point where, I was working out like 7 times a week. And there was a period of about 2 months where I was trying to eat like 1,100 calories a day, and
exercising.
And I was exercising so hard. And honestly, and again, I'm not placing blame here, but this is just to show how messed up our society is that was a recommendation from a trainer.
Oh my God.
That was like, they said to me, they were like, get it even lower. They wanted me to get it even lower. And I could do it for like 4 days. And then I would eat, double or triple the amount for the next 3 days. And I basically cycled like that for years.
Did you exercise for weight loss reasons or because it was a
Yeah, well, both. I mean, it was both, right? It was kind of like, weight fixation was my coping mechanism. Mm-hmm. And so the means that, the way to facilitate that for me was via the exercise. And so, that was always just like this mask for my desire for acceptance. And so what happened was my weight kept fluctuating. It kept kind of getting higher over the course of the years. And, my hormones started to malfunction, and that's when I realized I needed to make a change. That's when I realized I had a problem. I didn't realize I had a problem. I thought everything I was doing was normal. I was doing what everyone else was doing on the internet. I was doing what the trainers told me to do, and that I was just failing at it because nothing was working for me. And I was devastated, actually. I was like really upset. I was ashamed because I wasn't nutritionist, and I was trying to help other people with the same thing, and the fact that like I couldn't do it, I thought I was a failure because I couldn't restrict for very long. Like I could restrict for like 3 days or 4 days, and then it would just all fall apart. So I thought that I just couldn't get my act together. But the problem was, I mean, even when I was at my thinnest, like I hated my body. I didn't like myself. And everything kind of came to light. You know, I had like my quote unquote, like come to Jesus moment when I found out that like my hormones were really messed up and I had to stop working out. And I was more upset about having to stop working out than the fact that my hormones were really messed up.
Who told you that?
A naturopath. Mm-hmm. So I had a bunch of blood work and saliva testing done, and she said to me, "I'm surprised you're alive." Yeah. And I was like, really? You know, I had a bunch of stress as well at the time. So it was compounded by multiple things. It wasn't just the food and the exercise. But that was when I realized that I had an issue because I was so upset about not working out. And I was like, that's a problem.
I mean, you were lucky that she knew the correlation between exercise and stress and hormones, because no one ever pointed that one out to me. It was just de-stress, but I mean, exercise is a de-stressor, so no one ever tied that back to calories and exercise. Right.
I had seen multiple doctors before that without answers. In fact, I had doctors tell me that because I kept going to doctors saying I can't lose weight. Like that was why I was going to see them, because I was like, something's wrong with me. Like everything I do, I keep gaining weight. And so I had a doctor tell me that I had too much body fat to have hypothalamic amenorrhea. I had another doctor tell me I just needed to eat less and move more. So, you know, I had my fair share of doctors who had no clue what they were talking about, and who essentially like enabled me. Again, not placing blame, just showing how our system is messed up. And fortunately, the naturopath that I saw specialized in female hormones. She specialized in fertility. Not that I was trying to be fertile, but the issue was that I didn't have my period. So I knew to go to her. And
what made you believe her? Because so many doctors had told you otherwise. And so you could have said, well, that's her opinion. I don't need to follow her because you didn't want to get pregnant. So there was, quote unquote, no reason.
Because I actually thought that if I did this, then I would be able to lose weight.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I thought, okay, if I heal my hormones, then my metabolism will work better, and then I'll be able to finally lose weight.
Yeah, I understand. Okay.
So everything I did was with the intention of weight loss. So even when my hormones broke down, it was with the intention of weight loss. And then it became clear to me that I had a problem, but I thought if I heal this problem, then I'll release the emotional weight and I'll be able to lose weight. Or if I back off on exercise, my metabolism will heal and then I'll be able to lose weight. So everything was still with the intention of weight loss. And that took me, you know, a long time to completely dissolve myself of that, to completely let go of that desire, to not care about it anymore, years to really not care about it anymore.
And did you realize at the time that your relationship to exercise was disordered, or did you justify it for yourself?
I did justify it. I did, but then I also started to realize it was disorder because of the extent to which I was upset that I couldn't do it, and the extent to which I was getting, you know, anxious and upset about having to not participate in it and to lay off of the intensity. It was really hard. I think for me, I tried to just make the best of it. I tried to just kind of have fun with it. I was like, well, if I can't do it, then, you know, I'm just going to try and take it easy and make the best of it. And I still went to I still went to the gym to just like hang out with people because there was a social aspect to it as well. So I would just go and hang out with people, and I would like do some stretches and like do some really light stuff and like not work a sweat at all. And they supported me on it because I was really open with them, and they were, you know, the particular gym I was going to at that time. They were really good friends of mine. They were really supportive. They knew what was up, and they helped me a lot through it. And so I was able to just still get the things that I liked out of it, but I couldn't do the intense exercise. And yes, that was really hard because I think the hardest part was like, you know, surrendering control. And I think that's hard in any situation, whether that's exercise or, you know, money or whatever you're trying to give up, or relationships, whatever you're trying to let go of control of, is hard. And that can bring up a lot of emotions.
And it sneaks back in sometimes so easily, like, yeah, I'm going to do a little of that, and then 5 minutes more, and a little more, and a little more. And then all of a sudden you find yourself back in the old routine. But obviously that didn't happen for you, so you followed through with it until your cycle came back?
So my cycle never actually came back properly. There's another layer to this story, which is that I was on birth control pills for about, I'm going to do the math in my head really quickly, like 17, like almost 20 years, like a long time, basically ever since I got my period. So basically like a month in, or maybe 6 months into getting my period, which I got it pretty early when I was a kid. I was put on the birth control pill because my cycle was so heavy and so painful. And so, you know, what certain doctors have told me is that I essentially like never really went through, oh my God, what's the word? I'm like drawing a total blank.
Probably can't help you with that because I'm Swiss.
Like, I'm like, what's it called when like a woman like gets her period and she starts to mature? And I'm just completely drawing a blank on that word. So I never actually kind of went through puberty. That's the word. Thank you.
You meant that. The awful phase. Yeah.
Puberty. I never actually went through puberty. Like, and so therefore, you know, the loss of my period was certainly compounded by the exercise and the restriction and the stress on my body, but it was also muddled in with the fact that I had been on the pill for 20 years. And so I tried naturally to get it back for about a year and a half or 2 years. Like I tried acupuncture. I did a whole bunch of naturopathic treatments. I was eating more, you know, I was moving less, like I was really resting. My body weight had come up and sort of found its set point, quote unquote. But I got frustrated with that because it was negatively impacting the way that I was feeling. And so I just went and started taking bioidentical hormones. So that just kind of like regulates me. It's almost like being on the pill, but it's a more natural way of being on the pill for me. And it doesn't stop my ovulation, but it just regulates my estrogen and progesterone levels. I don't talk about that a ton because so there's your exclusive, but that's what I take because it got to the point where I had exhausted all the natural remedies and I was sick of having the hormonal imbalances, and I wanted to just like feel better again. And honestly, it was like I'm really happy I did do that because I felt so much better once I started taking those. Like my energy improved, my libido was better, and lots of different things. And so I mean, maybe I gave up on waiting. Maybe I didn't wait long enough, but I just got to a point where I was just like, you know what, I'm going to do this because I know it's going to make me feel better.
That's good. I mean, I didn't even know there was a half natural way to approach this because all I ever had recommended or prescribed were, I don't know, the Kickstarter hormone thing to get the cycle running again, which it didn't, and then just hormonal, what do you call them, substitutes?
Yeah, the synthetic hormones. Yep. So
I didn't want to take that.
Yes, exactly. So I had, and because I had been on birth control pills for so many years, I didn't want to go back on that. So this is what they give women in menopause. So it's almost like I hit like an early menopause and I have to just take this thing to like regulate myself. And so I don't know whether it was all due to the fact that I was on the birth control pill for so many years or whether it was the result of, the restriction and the over exercise. I think it was just a perfect storm of all of those things together that inhibited me from having my period. I certainly had hypothalamic amenorrhea, because my thyroid was down, regulated, like all my hormones were out of whack. And some of them did improve and get more normalized. I sort of got to a point where I felt as normal as I probably could, naturally. And then I wanted to just take care of, what's wrong with taking medication if it's going to make you feel better? I think I had healed the psychological side. That was the most important thing. My body weight had regulated. I wasn't restricting food anymore. I wasn't over exercising. And so I knew that I had done my best.
Yeah, I'm glad you found those solutions and that you listened to the naturopath, actually, because, that you met her in the first place and then that you listened to her. What I'm wondering is, what did the messy part look like? Because you made it sound easy, then the weight started to find back to its set point weight and I didn't exercise. And I can only speak for myself. When I have rest days, I can really pat myself on the back for them because they're so hard for me. And what comes up every time is huge anxiety and huge guilt and everything. And then with every pound that comes back on, it's not easy to do it. Mm-hmm. So I was wondering how the messy part looked like for you.
It was really hard. It was really hard. There were lots of tears and frustration and, it brought up a lot of emotions that I had been directing onto my body and onto my weight. And, but because I was, a nutritionist and because I was interested in kind of the psychological side of things, that's when I started to kind of, learn more about intuitive eating and learn more about feminism and learn more about body acceptance. And I started to realize that, my passion all along was to help women. I was channeling it into the wrong place in the beginning. Yeah. My passion was always to help women feel better about themselves. I was just doing that through weight loss when I first started working as a nutritionist.
As so many do.
Yes. And then I realized, ultimately what I wanted was, yes, to make women feel better, but the way I was going about it wasn't working. And so I think, what helped me so much was helping other people along the way. It was taking what I was learning and sharing it. And whether that was through my blog or starting to slowly change the way I worked with clients, that helped me to stay accountable to my journey. That helped me to say all right, I'm actually committing to this. When you post something on the internet saying all right, this is, I'm coming to terms with my body, which I hate that expression, but I was writing things like that at the time. That helped me to stay accountable to it. That helped to reinforce it and connecting with other people doing similar work and learning about, finding Linda Bacon, finding intuitive eating, finding, somebody like Isabel Foxen Duke, who was, a major trailblazer at the time. Mm-hmm. And stuff like that helped to ease the struggle. I also have a really good support network, and I just knew, I had come to the point where I was just I can't lose weight. That's it. My body's not going to do it. I've done everything. There's nothing that I haven't tried. I have to accept it. My choice is to accept it or to just be miserable all the time. And so I made the choice to accept it and make the best of whatever it was going to be. And that's what kept me going, was just the fact that I couldn't turn back. There was no other choice. I had to just go down this path because the other path didn't work. And I had been down it for 20 years and I wasn't going to go back down there anymore. I did a few times, you go down the rabbit hole and you come back up, but
I was going to ask, did you ever sort of relapse into, come on, one more diet and amping up the exercise too much, or was it?
Yes, Yes. Oh, yeah, for sure. With the exercise, there would be times when it would start to feel a little bit more intense again. And I was like, all right, like back it off. And like you said, I had to be really conscious and like give myself those rest days. And they were really hard and I hated them at first. And then I had to just be like, okay, well, you celebrate when you take a rest day. Like, that's what you need to be proud of. And so, yes, there were times when the exercise went up and down. And there were times when I started to, like, play around with, like, macronutrients again and stuff like that. And get a little bit lost down the rabbit hole and come back out. Because I would do it for, like, 2 weeks. And then I'd be like, what am I doing? Like, this is terrible. Like, I was just like, what am I doing here? And, it's not solving the issues. And I think for me, it was really coming to terms with like what was actually at the heart of all of this, which was just, self-acceptance, perfectionism, not having self-worth beyond, my identity as like a health and fitness. And even though I wasn't really that fit, but health and fitness persona.
Two questions coming up. The first is exactly what you said. How did you transition your message with your clients? And we need to go into that a little deeper. What are we trying to fix by trying to fix our body and controlling our food? What is it? And how did you transition with your clients?
So with my clients, I think it was I gradually started to see in them what I had seen in myself. And so I think for me, I was like, oh, like I see what's actually, like I see I'm pushing people down a similar path that I was going down, or that I'm enabling them in the same way that, personal trainers enabled me and other people enabled me. And so I started to just be more forgiving with them. Like I was like, it's okay. Like you don't have to eat that. Like, and I started to incorporate intuitive eating, and there's no good or bad foods. And, I just changed my language and the way that I was working with clients. And I started to incorporate more like body acceptance and positivity. Like, all right, we're not going to weigh you, like there's no scales in this office anymore. We're not going to do measurements and stuff like that. Like this is really just about like how you feel. And so it was more of a gradual transition than like all of a sudden I'm not doing this anymore. And I think that, when the website I have now came out like 3 years ago, I can't remember. But when the website I have now came out, that was when, I had really decided to shift direction. And when
you felt you healed yourself as well? Or,
yes.
Yeah?
Yes.
Or were you stable long before that?
I was... So here's the thing, Merritt, like I'm always healing myself. Like I'm,
Me too.
You know what I mean? Like as I alluded to earlier when I talked about like the perfectionism or not giving myself credit for stuff, like, like there's always stuff, like there's always like things. So like, it's funny, like when you say like, did you had healed yourself? Like I just see this as like a lifelong thing where I'm constantly just sort of like bettering myself and like living my life more fully and, processing my emotions. And so,
beautiful.
I think, I don't think it was like, okay, I'm good. Like, all right, I'm changing things. It was more just like, all right, I've evolved. My purpose is the same, but the means are now different. And like, all right, we're just shifting all that over, like from a technical perspective, like taking down old blog posts, putting up new things,
smashing the scale.
Yes, exactly. And I think, and then obviously like I went and did my life coaching. And so that ultimately like really changed the way that I practice and the way that I work with women. And I phased out doing, nutrition work, probably about a year or more ago. I will still sometimes incorporate it if somebody really wants it, but the life coaching is, or the body image coaching, which is just life coaching, but focusing on body image, is where all my focus is now, because that's where I see the biggest change. And like, I just love it. That's like my drug. Coaching people is my drug. I love it so much.
Yeah, and you do a great job. And it's really at the base of everything is life and how we approach it and how safe or unsafe we feel in the world. So it's always wise or sensible to kind of approach the life coaching side of things before we address stuff like body and food. But as I was asking before, I want to go into that a little bit. What are we trying to fix by trying to fix our body and controlling our food as obsessively as we sometimes do?
Mm-hmm. I think we're trying to, I believe that everyone is a little bit different. And I think what we're trying to fix, and when I say it that way, what I mean is like, somebody who is kind of in the depths of hating their body with their food and exercise issues, what they are trying to fix is how other people perceive them and controlling, whether or not people will judge them or reject them or whether or not people will like them. I fear of rejection and fear of judgment runs so deep in body image issues. And as well as controlling emotions. So not allowing yourself to, really kind of feel the highs and lows of life and thinking that, controlling your body will protect you from any kind of like emotional harm. So if I, like, for example, the thought process is like, okay, if I'm thin, I'll be happy. Like everything will just be good. Like life is just going to be easier if I'm thin. More people will like me. I won't get rejected. I'll be happy. I'll be able to do these things I want to do. And I mean, the truth of the matter is, yes, people who are larger in our society face discrimination. That is an unfortunate and awful, horrible thing. And it's, it's real. It's really, it is real. And I understand and acknowledge that I have privilege and that I've never experienced that kind of discrimination. And I think that that's important to note. So I'm not making light of that. And I'm not saying that individuals who face discrimination should just think this is just going to be as easy, because I do recognize that there's different challenges that they have that they would face that I haven't experienced as a white, middle class, straight, medium-sized woman, like
for sure. Yeah.
So I've definitely had it. I definitely acknowledge my privilege, but where I was going with is everybody faces rejection, everybody faces judgment, regardless of your body size. We can't protect ourselves from that. We can't we can't control our destiny. And I think that, that controlling our body is a way that we think we can control our destiny. And protect ourselves. And so that's, I think, ultimately what we're trying to, like, quote unquote, fix. Mm-hmm. What we want to do is to be who we are and know that sometimes people are going to judge you and sometimes people are going to reject you. But being who you are is actually the most rewarding thing than hiding from life and hiding yourself with the hopes that you'll be able to protect yourself from emotional harm.
And I think you are doing an amazing job at making women see that the way we attach happiness and love and being desired and everything that is great in life, all the good things are related to weight loss. Which in fact they're not, because when listening to all the talks with all your great guests that you have and had, they made me see like, oh, we really have this wrong because we've been fed diet culture lies for so long that they really make it seem like being thin makes us able to put on that bikini and have that wild affair and getting that job. But in most cases, it's an inside job. And hearing people talk about their experience, whether they live in a large body or in a thinner body, that they can work on their own inner issues and become and develop a sort of contentment and a peace with themselves that is not related to their body size. So, because that was really deep for me, it was like just a given. Like, yeah, of course it's related. I wasn't accepted as a kid when I was bigger, and I won't be again. And now I know that it's my job to love myself and not the world's job.
Yeah, exactly.
But I think that's a deep one, that the misperception is really, all around us. So where did you get your ideas from to make us see that there's much more to the truth?
I have always been a rebel. I have always, this sounds terrible, I've always rejected authority. So when I was a kid, I was a bad kid. Like, I was like, my mom told me to do something and I would never do it. Like, I was like, no, I'm going to do this. Or like, I was all like teachers, like I was like some of the teachers, I was their nightmare.
But you were dieting. How unusual. Yeah.
I know. I've always been a shit disturber though. So, for me, this just became my outlet for it. So I was, I pieced that together. Like, I was like, wow, I can rebel against, like, society's telling me who to be. I've been buying into this. I was like, come on, like, no, I'm not going to do this anymore. So I find it, for me, it's really just like looking at things, like, okay, looking at what society is telling us, like what the beauty industry and the diet industry is telling us. And all right, well, I'm going to do the opposite.
Yeah, because it helps to see the mechanism behind things, doesn't it? Because when you see that they're making 60 billion a year off our insecurities, it kind of wakes up the rebel that goes, damn, that shit's got to stop. I'm not buying into this anymore. So I think it really helps to see some of the rather sinister goings on behind it.
Absolutely. Yes. Understanding feminism, like understanding the way that women have been controlled, the way that women have been disempowered by the beauty industry, by the diet industry, that fires me up. Like, that is where a lot of my passion comes from, and I get kind of a thrill out of breaking rules. Like, I find it exhilarating to be like, well, I'm not going to do what you tell me to do. If someone says like, oh, women over whatever age shouldn't wear shorts, I'm like, well, I'm going to wear shorts. So that's a way that I can, that for me personally, that's very resonant for me. That helps fuel my passion. That's where a lot of my ideas and thoughts come from, is just sort of thinking about the counter side of it, and fighting back against the system that has taken away our power. We live in this culture that tells us we're not good enough, and that takes away our power. And what is that doing for the world? What would women be doing if we weren't, talking about our thighs, or worrying about what we're going to wear, or
it's terrible to even think about it, isn't it?
Yeah. And I don't mean to make it sound like, oh, it's just easy, you just stop thinking about it, but because it's not. I mean, when you're completely in this world where what we're doing, the work we're doing, is still extremely countercultural. So it's not easy to just completely reject a culture. But when you can see that for what it is, when you can see like how these messages have hurt us, how they distract us, and how they control our lives, that helps you to see the bigger picture and want to change that, because it's sexist, it's suppressive, and it strips away our agency, independence and our power. Yeah, exactly. And I want women to take their power back. I want equality, and I want our voices to be heard, and I want us to, not be measured by the way that we look. We are human beings with thoughts and feelings and emotions. And that's not the first thing that is seen in us. The first thing that is seen in us is our exterior, and that makes me really upset. And I want to change that. And that is, that's why I'm here. That's my job on this earth, and I will do that until the day I die.
I love it. And I think really what I wanted to say, and what you said, is that the first step is becoming aware of what's going on. because then you can start to develop your own sense of authority again, and stepping out of that ever so slowly, because as you said, it is a hard process. And that's where community comes in, because I think no matter how much of a rebel you are, when you find yourself battling all of that on your own, you're probably not going to succeed, because it's just so hard to feel all alone and counterculture. So when we travel in packs, it just, it becomes easier, and it makes a lot more sense, and it's actually also fun. So you have to process a lot of difficult emotions, and it's hard work, but with so many good women behind you and having your back, it's just easier, and it makes you more resilient, I think. And you did that.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. But yes, I mean, the community piece of it is key. I mean, it's one thing to feel like an outcast. It's another thing to feel like a rebel amongst other rebels, and that's that it certainly helps a lot to have that safe space to share our struggles and our successes, to have this safe space to celebrate something that maybe other people wouldn't understand, or to ask for help in an area that there's a lot of shame around. I think if Brene Brown, Brene Brown's work, obviously, shame can't survive being shared. And exactly. I think that's the community. That's why the community piece is so important, and to grow the voices. I mean, that's the beauty of having the internet and social media, is that you can reach people who perhaps wouldn't see this in other places. I think if this movement this movement did exist to a very smaller degree, 20 years ago, it's harder to get the message out, because the media channels weren't the same. That you had like magazines, you had television, you had radio, but you didn't have podcasting and social media and email and everything else. Or maybe you did 20 years ago, but it was just, it's like very, very early infancy. But now it's so mainstream, and that allows it to grow. And I think that's awesome. I love that we can grow our voices, and that technology enables us to do that.
But it takes the first step of also purging your social media and cleaning that shit up, because there's a lot of negative stuff out there that triggers us to fall back.
Yeah, it's sad. I mean, it's really sad, and it's sad that body positivity also gets co-opted for diet culture as well. So, that's a whole other issue. But that's what's going to happen when you have something that is obviously working. You get people picking up on it and using it for their own cause. But hopefully, there's enough voices that are have a lot of integrity and truly understand what this movement is about, that will overtake the other side. At least I'm super optimistic, which I think helps me survive.
Yeah. What does body positivity mean to you then?
Body positivity to me is equality. It's respect and equality for all. All bodies are good bodies. I think that positivity is a loaded word, is an emotionally charged word. Body love is an emotionally charged word. And so
equality would be good, or body respect, as Linda Bacon said.
Body respect, body equality, all bodies are good bodies. That's what it encompasses for me. And it's just, recognizing that worth is not tied to appearance. And, ultimately, like, it's not about feeling attractive. It's not about looking at yourself and loving your appearance. It's about, detaching your emotions and detaching your worth from your body. And just your body is just along for the ride. It's just kind of the vessel. It does really cool things, and I think that's awesome. But it doesn't define who we are, and it doesn't control our destiny or our emotions. And I think that creating that detachment, that's what body positivity. That's at least what the journey to getting to a place where you can say I quote unquote love my body is really all about.
And there's the other buzzword as well, body image. And I think it's important to say that this term encompasses a lot more than just the way we think about our thighs and our stomachs, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's really just the way that you think about yourself and your worth and authenticity. Having a positive quote unquote body image is really just about being your authentic self.
Yeah, and it doesn't mean that once you reach the stage of having healed your body image, it's not going to be sunshine and roses. And I really appreciate you being honest about your bad body days and like letting us all know that it's not the goal to not ever have them again. It's not even possible. So what is a healthy body image to you?
I think it's having unconditional respect and kindness for yourself. And so that means accepting the moments when life is hard. It means being kind to yourself through those moments. It means respecting your emotions. It means respecting yourself to the extent to which you set boundaries and stand up for what you want and who you are. And that's what it means to me. And if I were to describe like how it feels, it's really just kind of this sense of empowerment. It's this sense of, I think what we want more than happiness is just peace in our minds. Happiness is fleeting. Happiness is something that, we'll come and go and we'll experience in small waves, like every emotion. So to have, I think it sets us up for failure if we think we're just going to be happy all the time, because that's just like completely unrealistic. But if we set ourselves up for being free of hating ourselves, and, recognizing that sometimes we still will, and that we can just be kind to ourselves and compassionate and respect our emotions throughout that. I mean, that's what it's all about.
It's motivating to hear as well that you don't get those bad body days as much or hardly ever, but you do get bad days. So how does your gremlin show itself these days?
Mine attacks my work and my abilities there. So my body, it doesn't really go after my body at all. It goes after me as my work. I'm inferior. I suck. Like everyone's, I'm like not original. I'm my ideas are useless. Why am I even bothering? Like that's what I go through. And that's that's part of the shit sandwich that I've signed up for. Because my business is online, because I've chosen to do very challenging work. I'm facing fear of rejection and judgment a lot. And as a result, that means I'm outside of my comfort zone. And when I'm outside of my comfort zone, I do feel self-doubt, that those two things go hand in hand. The bigger, so somebody said this to me once, the bigger the dream, the louder the scream. I've always been the type of person that goes after what I want and, tries, doesn't let other things stop me, which again is part of the rebellious energy. And as a result, I get a lot of demons with that, that like going after the things that you want, standing up for who you are, sharing your voice, that comes with it. That comes with, the negative voice. And so, I have to I manage it and I accept it. And I ride the highs. Like when I'm like feeling amazing, I'm like, all right, this is amazing. Knowing that, all right, it's gonna go away. Like I'll have some bad moments. I'm gonna feel like shit. I'm gonna like need to cry, and that's okay too, because then I'll be back up again. And it's just like, it's understanding that I'm on this wave, and it's like, all right, what wave are we surfing today? And accepting it and not trying to fix it or control it. I think that's the biggest thing for me. But yeah, my doppelganger, like really, which is what I call my negative voice, like it really goes after me on my work. So yeah, that's what it attacks me on.
Yeah. And you heard me going, really? Because there's the trap of, comparing one's insides to other people's outsides. And from the outside, it looks like, wow, you're doing incredible work and you do it incredibly well. So I was surprised because I thought it couldn't possibly be her work because everybody seems to love it so much. You're being interviewed by so many people, and we love you so much. So I wasn't thinking about that.
I put a lot of pressure on myself.
Yeah.
It's hard to be an entrepreneur. It really is. And so there's just, it's the same issues. It's like there's comparison, there's, feeling like you're being judged, there's vulnerability, there's risk. Like it's, it sort of flows over a bit. But what I've done is become a lot more resilient to it. And I have, my ability to manage it and see it for what it is and walk myself through it and be like, okay, here we go. Like, I know why you're showing up. Like, you're showing up because I'm, doing this project that's putting me out into the world that feels very vulnerable. So it's about managing it. And, it's the same thing with like bad body days. It's about managing them until they quiet down even more, until you realize you haven't had one in a really long time.
And how do you teach those skills to new clients? How do you make them able to detach their self-worth from their body?
I think it's it's such a big question, but I think it's changing the thoughts, recognizing the thoughts for what they are, why they're there. Oftentimes the negative thoughts that we have about our body aren't about our body. It's just a way for us to deflect emotional discomfort. It's a way for us, again, to think we are controlling our destiny. So it's about helping clients see it for what it really is and develop the skills to be able to respond to it and move through the fear. So compassion, helping clients to really build up compassion, whether that is through their voice as well as through their actions, and helping them to discover who they really are, like who they are. Where are you hiding? And let's get you unhiding. Let's get you to stop hiding. Let's put you out there. And I mean, there's so many more layers to it because body image issues are often just a symptom of bigger things going on. So it's really about understanding like what those other things are, like uncovering what those other things are and helping clients to see that and then make the changes that are just going to make their life more fulfilling and their life more exciting. And so their body becomes less of a concern overall. And dispelling all the bullshit about health and diet culture and all that stuff too. I mean, that's a big part of it.
Hell yes. And where do you run into the most resistance from clients? Like, no, I've gained X amount of weight already, I'm done. Where does the resistance come from?
That's a good question. I think everybody's different. And I think that I see resistance when there's unsupportive people in a relationship. So I think that you can only go as far as your environment allows you to.
For sure.
And I see resistance in people who aren't ready to do it. Because it's not easy. Diet culture is really loud. And I think some people just aren't necessarily ready for I like to be intense. I push my clients. Like I do. Like you're going to be pushed outside of your comfort zone in an amazing, awesome way. But I think that some people just aren't, it can be hard. It can bring up some stuff that you've been hiding and running from. And so I think that there's resistance there. And I also think sometimes people come to me thinking that it's just going to be this like instant gratification magical process. And it's not. It takes a while. and we chip away slowly at stuff. And some, the more that you put into it and just commit to like, all right, I'm doing this. Like, I'm doing this. Like, this is the path I'm on now. I'm not turning back. The more that like a client has that mindset and has that direction, like the faster and the better they change. Like that's it. That's when I'm like, we're off to the races and we're going. And it's like crazy what can even be done in like 4 weeks or 2 months. And then, 6 months, it's like insane how far a person can transform. But they have to, it's the commitment. So the commitment to just being like, I'm on this path now and I'm not turning back, as much as like sometimes I get tempted to turn back, and I acknowledge that and I recognize that, but I am not going to turn back. That is where you get the best hooray stories.
Yeah. How do you hold space for what comes up for your clients? Because those are ugly feelings sometimes. Sometimes, and it's probably not always easy to hold space for that.
Yes. I'm not completely an empath, but I do hold people's emotions. Like I have this really strong intuition. I can kind of feel what people feel. And so I'm just with them and I help them to process it, and I think having been through it myself, that helps me a lot to really understand it. And so I allow myself to hold that space for them, but I also have to detach myself from it when my day is over, because I can't hold all the beams up for everybody all the time.
Clearly,
and I think that that would also be a disservice to them and disempowering for them. They have to learn and I have to trust that they can hold themselves up as well. So, sometimes it's just about being with whatever emotions are there when I'm with a client and helping them to process it and be okay with that and just accept it. It's not about fixing it. It's like, you're really sad right now. Like, okay, let's just be sad, and we'll just be with that sadness and move through that sadness. It doesn't always have to be fixed. But I mean, I do feel it. My body absorbs it. And so I have to be really conscious of giving myself time out from social media, time out from everything, because otherwise I'm just constantly internalizing other people's emotions, which doesn't make me of service to them.
No, you're leading by example there as well, I think, because it's a very important skill to be able to set up healthy boundaries. And by doing that, you remind us to be okay with saying no, with not being there for someone else when you need to fill up your own cup first. I think this is actually a very important skill.
It is, and it's a challenge. It's a challenge because, I'm so passionate. Like my purpose is so strong that there's that then it comes up as like, oh, you could do more. You haven't done enough. Like, there's the not enoughness sensation that comes in again about my work. But it's also about, that's one of the reasons why I built the community, was so that I could create this community of women that could hold each other up. I'm not the only pillar. Like, there's all these different pillars holding up this structure. And like, how much better is this structure with all these pillars than if it was just me holding it up? And that's what I encourage clients to do too, is to have like a support network, like have those pillars, and you yourself be this pillar, because it's your story, it's your journey. Like it's you're responsible for this. I'm here to guide you. I'm here to push you. I'm here to, give you direction. I'm here to help you see the clarity in the situation. But it ultimately, like, you're the one who's doing this. And that's what's so incredible about it, is that they have the power to do it.
It's incredible. It's like every voice counts, and it's just the safest space in the entire internet, I think. Really, it's great. It's just great.
I'm proud of it.
This ties back into how important support is. And you said that you were married when you were still in the thick of your eating disorder and obsessively exercising. So how did your relationship develop over time? That can cause a lot of fear, like, ooh, my body's going to change and hopefully he's not going to reject me, like the rejection thing again. because he had married someone else and what's going to happen. So how did that go?
You know what's really interesting is that like never crossed my mind. I have the most amazing husband ever. He's just like, I wish I could clone him because I think humanity would just be so much better if everyone was more like my husband. He's the most patient. He's the most loving. He is the kindest person. And, he loves me literally through thick and thin. Like he always thought I was weird because I cared so much about my body. Like he was always like, what are you like, you're messed up. Like he would say things like that because I would, be like in tears over myself. And he would be like, Summer, like you're crazy. Like, what are you talking about? And honestly, like I was kind of crazy, but, I just never thought about that. I don't know. I've always just felt, I trust him 100%. I trust that he loves me unconditionally 100%, and I always have. And we have like a really special bond. And he also makes me laugh. Like he adds humor to everything, which I think helped so much in this process because like he'll help me see the ridiculousness in something, or he will, if I'm having a bad day, like he just, has this way about him that can just like turn my bad days into like laughing, and I feel so much better. And so, we've grown together, quite well over the years. Like we're both very different people than when we first met, but we evolved very similarly throughout the years. And so, I guess I'm really just fortunate. Like I'm very appreciative and grateful for the fact that has just been really easy for me. And he's always loved me unconditionally. So I've never personally experienced that. And to be honest, I think I had so many bad relationships before him where, guys treated me like shit and I was completely disrespected, and I would go back to them because I just wanted approval. That he was one of the first relationships that I had when I started to, like really honor myself and expect respect and want someone to actually love me unconditionally. And maybe I think that's probably why we stayed together, obviously.
Wow. Clone him already.
He's a good guy. He gets it from his mom. His mom's the best person ever. So his mom is like that, and he gets it from her. And I'm lucky to have him. I'm lucky to have his family, and I'm so grateful for that because I see how that can be so hard with other people. I see that with clients, and I see that with just other women on the internet, and I think all women deserve respect. We deserve unconditional love and respect. And I think that we need to demand that from other people. And I don't think there's anything wrong with demanding that. And I think I grew up in a household where that didn't exist. And my parents stayed together 20 years longer than they should have. Yeah. And I saw it and I experienced it, and I never wanted that for myself, and I would never want that for somebody else. And so that's, I have a bit of a personal connection to it from that regard, but I've never experienced that myself, except for past relationships when I had a lot of guys treat me like shit, a lot.
Yeah, I relate 100%. And that's why I think we really need to see that we are actually all worthy. The point is that we reach that stage inside of ourselves first, and then it will happen, I think. And that we are, just as you said with his mother, I think that we are free to choose our own new family. If we meet people that we really like and that we feel carried by, that we can sort of, mentally adopt them, and that we
can so true.
Step out of our own story. And I think it's never too late to have a happy childhood. And that's sort of, I really mean that. And I really didn't have a great childhood. And I think I empower myself by thoughts like this, and I get to meet new people, and I feel like, they could be my mom, or that's a good leading example. And then I feel empowered and I get to step out of victim mentality, which isn't healthy anyway.
Yeah, that's so well said.
So you're basically my adoptive sister now,
I was just going to say that.
Yes.
I knew it.
I'm going to send you the forms to
Yes.
sign.
Yes, come stay here.
Oh, yes. By the sea? You're living by the sea, right?
I do,
Oh,
yes.
my God. And you have a dog, Walter.
I do, yes. Walter the pug, he's at my feet.
Oh, I love dogs. I love the beach. I love you. And I probably need a clone of your husband.
I think we all do.
So I think we're going to have to wrap this up, even though I could talk forever. But what are you working on right now? What is your business evolving into, and what are your plans? Is there something you want to share with the audience?
Well, I think what's big is Sarah Vance, who's a friend and also, I believe you've interviewed her. We have a retreat that is called the Reclaim Retreat. Reclaim Retreat. And if you go to all the details are at reclaimretreat.com. That's the biggest thing that just kind of is on top of my mind. Which is going to be like 2.5 days in San Diego, California in May. So that's super exciting because that's going to be like a live event. I'm looking at doing more live events, speaking events. That's on my radar right now because I do a lot of stuff behind a screen and I would like to be more on a stage. And so I'm looking at doing something with Carrie Ann Livingston, who I know has also been on your podcast. Yeah, that. And then that's, I'm opening up my one-on-one like private coaching in August for people who want to work one-on-one with me. I work with women for 4 months to start, and so I'm going to be recruiting new women who want to work with me in August, and then beyond that, next year I'll be running Rock Your Body again in February, which is my online group program, which is awesome, which is all about helping women discover self-worth beyond the scale. So lots of things, lots of stuff. I'm kind of just taking this summer to like reorganize and get in gear, and then get back into it a little bit more intensely in the fall.
I'm sure you don't mind if I link to all of your programs and websites into the Reclaim Retreat over at lifeunrestricted.org/LUO10, because you are episode 10.
Oh my God, double digits.
Yes, a good sign. So we'll link to all of that in the show notes. And are you working with Europeans as well? I got to ask that since...
Yes, I work with people all over the world. I do a better job of getting the time zones organized than we did. And what was I going to say with that? Also, I have like my book is on Amazon as well, which is like a really easy way for people which is called Body Imagery Mix, which is a really easy way for people to get introduced to my work. That is $5.
That's $5. Yeah, we can afford that because it's going to maybe change our lives. I mean,
I'm a free 10-day body confidence makeover on the podcast, and so I have lots of free stuff too, which is what I always want to make sure I have in conjunction with obviously like doing the one-on-one work with me.
And I will also link to both of our groups so that if people feel a little bit alone on their journey, so they can sure as hell join, and then maybe that will motivate them further to delve into their own selves.
Yes.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you.
So I have one last question for you. What would you like to be remembered for?
Let me think about that. Well, I'm trying to think about this in like a way that would phrase up in a very small sentence.
Like a real smart, short sentence. You don't have to.
Yeah. Like something
really like, wow, she's cool.
Yeah,
that'd be good.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we really doubt your coolness.
I'm trying to make it not cheesy. She disrupted society's standards.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah, that's not cheesy.
Yeah, no, I want to be known for helping women take back their independence and empowering them.
Oh, this talk has meant a lot to me, and I'm so happy I can spread this over here as well. It's so needed, and you're doing such great work, and I love you. I can't.
Thank you. Well, I love you too. And I want to say that I appreciate all of your contributions and everything. And I just love seeing you, like how far you've come. And I just so appreciate you sharing the broader message, as well as, sharing my stuff and allowing me this opportunity. And I love seeing you step into your fears to make this podcast happen. So that made me really happy. So way to go. And I'm honored to have you in my life.
I'm sort of sad it's over already.
I know. We got to do a part 2.
Oh yeah, I could.
Well, your message is important. I know people are listening, and I just like talking to you. So that's like that too.
Can I just say thank you, and I mean it from the bottom of my heart.
Thank you. Thank you
You're
so
welcome.
much.
Have a good day.
You too. I'll talk to you soon.
Yeah. Bye, Summer.
Bye.
Bye.
Rock on.
This was today's dose of badassery from Life Unrestricted. Find the show notes with links to everything we mentioned in this episode over at lifeunrestricted.org. And if this show is making you feel good, awesome. Make sure to subscribe and please let others feel good too. By leaving a 5-star review on iTunes, you'll help make this show more visible and therefore more accessible for others. You're the best. Thanks.